This is kind of Horst Seehofer's strategy of being contentious and causing problems in Berlin, coming back to bite his own party in the butt, essentially, in Bavaria.
Correct, Matt. I think that the CSU, the sister party for Angela Merkel's Conservative Party in Bavaria, miscalculated voters' concerns and really tacked to the right on questions of migration, trying to take away the rise of the AfD, the Alternative for Germany party, the right-wing party that's entered the federal parliament in 2016. But voters in Bavaria also wanted to know about education, affordable housing, the environment, and as a result, they did lose about 200,000 voters to the Greens, which had a phenomenal showing, basically doubled the support that they have in Bavaria. I think they have close to now 18%.
Right, so the Greens got almost a fifth, which is pretty surprising for kind of a right-of-center state in Germany. And also, this is a state that's kind of on the front lines of immigration. This is where a lot of the refugees are coming across the border. The CSU figured they would try and outflank the AfD because they saw the AfD gaining ground in everybody else in states like, well, Brandenburg, for example. Why was that such a failure?
Well, as I said before, I think voters were concerned about other issues, and I think they just went overboard. And like you mentioned before, I also think they didn't appreciate Horst Seehofer's tactics over the summer of contradicting the chancellor, because the CSU is part of this government in Berlin. So I think voters were just confused, and the Greens did well because they were authentic. They stuck to the party platform that they've always had, and voters saw that. And they've done well. They're represented in more than half the states in Germany, but federal states in Germany. But I will say that it's not that migration's not a concern. If you look, the AfD, the Freie Wähler, this independent party, and the CSU did okay. Polls were showing 32% before Sunday, and the CSU did manage to get some of those undecided voters. So they won't have an absolute majority, but they will remain the lead party in the governing coalition for Bavaria.
Anna?
Good morning. Good morning to you, Sudha. In terms of the bigger picture for Angela Merkel's government, then, I've read some analysis that suggests this plays badly for her because obviously this is a partner being hammered at the polls, but others suggest that because this is a partner that caused her trouble being hammered at the polls, actually this does quite well for her. So how does this sit with Merkel?
Well, I do think that this vote is significant because really it's a message to Berlin that people are not happy with the grand coalition between the two major parties, the CDU-CSU on the center-right caucus and the SPD, the center-left. Because if you also the miserable showing happened with the SPD. They barely got 10% of the vote. I don't think they've ever had a result like this. This is Germany's oldest political party. So, I mean, this is a signal that although the CSU is still going to lead the government, the fact of the matter is that people are not happy with the established parties, and that means that Chancellor Merkel's tactic of always building a grand coalition is just becoming tiresome for voters. And at the end of the day, you can't say that they're disenchanted because 70% of eligible voters went to the polls. So people were engaged, but it was a signal to Berlin that the grand coalition is just not bold enough for Germans for the challenges they're facing.
So, I mean, this is kind of the twilight then of Merkel. She's certainly at the least powerful position that she's been in her 13 years in office. What about Horst Seehofer, though? I mean, are we counting the hours until his resignation? Does he step down as head of the Interior? Does he step down as head of the CSU after their horrible showing?
I mean, I think we've talked about Merkel's twilight for a very long time, but I do think that, people tend to think that it could be that in December we have to watch for the next party convention that she could say, all right, I won't be chair of the party anymore. I'll continue being chancellor. And that would be a significant step to have her successor take the reins of the party. Horst Seehofer, I mean, he's sort of a sly politician. He's also chairman of the party. So for him to sort of step back may cause more instability in Berlin and also for the CSU. So I think
he's not that sly if he's heading a party that has its worst result since 1950.
Correct.
He's apparently not a very good politician.
Exactly. He's been very bumbling. We saw what happened over the summer. But you have to understand it's also psychological. They thought they were going to maybe get 32% or less than 32%, but they can actually form a comfortable government in Bavaria with 30%, 37%, and they'll try to form one with the Freie Wähler, the free voters, which are it's basically a splinter party of the CSU. So it's definitely not a great showing, but they're in a comfortable position.